So hello and welcome to all. I am Devanjan De. This class will be based on B and B plus trees. So let's get started. At first, what are M-way search trees? By definition, M-way search trees are multi-way search trees which are generalized versions of BSTs where each node contains multiple elements. So till now, whatever trees that we have seen, whether it is a binary search tree or a VLT or something like that, in these trees we work with single element node, means whatever insertion, deletion or those related stuff that we have done, here we just add one key to each node. So for example, if we are adding 5, then this 5 element will itself be a node. But in some cases, we may need to store more than one element in a single node. This is especially useful in case of data retrieval from hard disks, about which we will come later on. So in these cases, binary search trees or BSTs aren't that much useful. So we need this M-way search trees where one node will contain more than one element. So the next point says that in an M-ordered M-way search tree, each node contains maximum m-1 elements and m children. So m is also called the degree of that tree. So when we say that it is m search tree, so the order of that m tree, m search tree is m, and there will be m children for a particular node in the B tree, means m number of maximum childlings will be present in a node, and the number of elements that can be stored, maximum number of elements that can be stored in a node will be m-1 elements. And so now let us introduce some terminologies here. You can see this figure. It can be said as an example of a M-way search tree node. So here you can see this K0, K1 and up to K m-2. This would depend on the node elements and whatever data we are storing in the node. So here it is written, for example, we will denote the node elements as ki, and then we also have this C0, C1 dot up to C2, m-1. This will represent the links to the children, means the links to the subtrees which are referred by this particular node. So this will be represented as Cj. Now Ki will mean a particular node element and Cj will represent a particular child. So I will represent some number, and that will be based on how many elements we will have in a node, and j will depend on how many children we will have. So as we have seen that maximum number of elements in a node will be m-1, so the value of I will range from 0 to m-2, and as we have also seen that the number of children that can be pointed by a particular node is m, so the values of j can range from 0 to m-1. So this is an example of MV search tree node. Now let's come to properties. So what are the properties of MV search trees? The first property is that the pointers to children are placed between elements in a node. So what we have seen in the previous example, the first element or first item in the node begins with a link to the subtree, and then we have an element k 0. Then after that we all have another child link, then an element. So in this way, interleaf fashion, the elements will be arranged, elements and child links will be arranged. So this is also one of the reasons why we have m minus 1 elements and m children, because if we store m child links, then in between them we can interleave m minus 1 elements. So that is why it is so. The next point is the elements in a node are arranged in ascending order. So in binary search trees we know that the nodes to the left of the root node we are in this are lesser than the root node, and the nodes to the right are greater than that. So this BT so this MV search tree not only satisfies this afterward, but also in the node itself. So the node element itself will be arranged in ascending order. So for example, see this node only, this node has 50 first, then 60, then 80. And then the next 2 points which are very important. All node elements in the subtree Ci are less than the node element Ki, and all node elements in the subtree Ci plus 1 are more than the node element Ki. So this is one of the usefulness of what the notation that we have made earlier. So Ki will refer to a node element, and Cj will refer to as child link. So for example, we have a child link Ci. After that child link, the Ki will be there. The node element Ki will be there. So Ci will refer to some subtree of that particular node. So this property says that in this particular subtree, whatever element that are present, all these elements will be lesser than this particular element Ki. So for example, see in this MV search tree, this node element 50, and before that there is a subtree A, which is this part. This is 30. This contains 30 and 35. So both of these are lesser than 50. Now after to the right we have another link which refers to this particular whole subtree. Now see what are the elements in this subtree: 58, 59, 52, 54, 57, 55 and 56. You see all these elements are greater than this 50. So in this subtree you cannot have any whole subtree, you cannot have any elements say 40 or 45 or lesser than that. All elements have to be greater than this 50. Then if you just this subtree with respect to the next node element, which is 60, then you will see that all these elements are lesser than 60. So you cannot see any node element greater than 60, like 62 or 65 in this subtree. Those those elements 60 to 65 can be present in this in the subtree which is reference after this element 60. Yes, after this element 60 we have this particular subtree, and it contains 61, 62, 63, 70 and 70. This particular subtree now cannot have any element lesser than this 60. It cannot have 51 or 41 or something like that. Now all these elements again are lesser than this particular node element 80. Again the last element which is 100 is greater than this 80. So in this way you can explain that here is this can maintain a particular ascending order means not only among the elements in the particular node but also among the subtrees of that node. Left subtree of that to the left of that particular node, the particular node element will be all elements lesser than particular node element, and all elements to the right of that node element means the all elements in the subtree that is referred to the right of this element will have all elements greater than this element. So whatever property we had in our BST binary search tree, this is a kind of an extended form of the property in MOS search tree. So now we come to what is a B tree. According to definition, a B tree is a specialized M-way search tree of order M. So we have discussed M-way search tree. So and B tree is also a kind of M-way search tree of order M, but it is also specialized. Why? Because it has some more conditions added with the normal conditions of M-way search tree. What are those? See the first condition. Every node except root holds at least ceiling of m by 2 minus 1 elements, and the ceiling of m by 2 child links. The root may contain only one element. So in our previous discussion of M-way search trees, we have seen that there is a condition on the maximum number of elements, which is a particular node can hold a maximum of m minus 1 elements and m children. So this is the maximum limit on which is imposed on that. But in addition to that limit, there is a limit on the minimum number of elements that can be stored in that in a node other than the root node. So what is that minimum limit? It is ceiling of m by 2 minus 1. So internal nodes and leaves have to contain a minimum of ceiling of m by 2 minus 1 elements in them, and if there are ceiling of m by 2 minus 1 elements in a node, then there has to be ceiling of m by 2 child links, because as we have seen that if the child links surround the elements, so there are this number of child elements should be stored, or then there are this number of child links also have to be stored. Now the next point says that all leaf nodes must be present at the same level. So what we have seen in earlier examples of M-way search trees, especially in this example, you can see that there are leaves at multiple levels. So there is this particular leaf which is at fourth level, and then you have a leaf at this third level, second level, and then you have the rest of the leaves at this level 1. So in case of general MS search trees, this arrangement is possible, but in case of B trees, here there is a restriction that all the leaf nodes have to be in the same level. So here you can see that this is an example of a B tree, and here you can see the leaf nodes A, B, E, F, J, K, L, N, O. So there are almost 7 nodes, and all the 7 nodes are present at level 2, and there is no leaf which is present at level 1. Good. So this is an example of a B tree where we keep the leaf nodes at the same level, and after that we have, like DSTs, the time complexity to search, insert and delete is O log n. This will be clear as we see the insertion and deletion process in B trees, and it is a bit similar to binary, what we do in binary search trees, but since there are multiple nodes in a single, multiple elements in a single node, so there really is some changes in the process, but the complexity remains more or less O log n. So let's see about traversal and sorting. So how we perform a traversal of the tree? So traversal in B trees is similar to in-order traversal of a binary tree. First, recursively traverse the leftmost node of the left subtree for a key element. Then traverse the key element and then traverse the right subtree in a similar. So this particular lines may be a bit confusing to read out, but if you get the concept, then it would be easier to understand. What we do in a normal traversal means traversing a BST or something like that. We first get the leftmost node of the tree with respect to the root, which is somewhat here. Then we traverse the root node for that particular subtree. Then we traverse the right. Then we come to the root while doing so, and then we traverse the right path. Something similar is performed in case of a B tree also, but in this case you have to, since there are many elements in a particular node, so it may be a bit divided type approach. Means after traversing one node, you have to go for another subtree. Not always you can traverse a particular node, all the elements at one time. Now this what I told is also a bit confusing, so let's go directly to example. So in this B tree, how to traverse this particular B tree? So at first we come to the root node. It has a left child link, means a link to a left subtree. Here we also come to the root. Here also it has a left subtree link. So in this way we have come to the leftmost node of the tree, and as we have come to the leftmost node and it has no children, so we can traverse all elements here. which is 1, 3 and 7. After traversing all these nodes, we traverse 8. But can we traverse 25 at this moment? No, because in between them there is a link to another subtree, and this contains these 3 nodes 15, 21 and 23. This is required to traverse, and we traverse it. After traversing these 3, we traverse this 25 node. Traverse here we are depicting as print operation, but in some other cases you may have to do some other things, so that depends on the definition or the what we are doing. So in this case we are just printing the elements, so we are saying that we are printing that. So now till now we have printed this 25. After this there is another link 26, 27, 28, sorry. After this particular subtree has been traversed or printed. After this we print this element, this 30. After this, can we traverse this 70? No, because in between them there is another subtree. Here also we come. So can we traverse 40? No, because there is another link to subtree here which contains these 2 nodes 35 and 38. Now this is a leaf, so we can traverse all nodes. After this we come to the top level and traverse 40 or print 40. After this there is another subtree, and here we have these 2 nodes 42, 49. We have printed these 2, then we print 50. After this then we have 56 and 65. After this we have to print 70. After this is another subtree. Here we have another this 2 nodes, and this also contains subtree, so we have to check them. So at first the first element we are traversing 71, then 73 and 75. After this we print 76. After this there is another subtree, and we print 77 and 75. After this 88, and lastly we have 89 and 87. So in this way we have traversed this particular BT. Generally pre-order and post-order are not used for this BT. We generally use in order only. And search in BT is similar to the search in B, binary search tree. So you can understand that element comparison is similar to what we have done in BST or here. The only difference is that we are comparing in a node or based upon the subtree we have to branch. So for example, if we want to find 49, then we have to compare, and then we have to compare accordingly and find the subtree where we have to find. So first we compare with 30, it is lesser. After that we compare with 70, so it is greater. So in between there is a subtree and we have to go there. After this we have 40 and 50. Now here also lesser, this 40 is lesser and this 50 is greater. So in between there is a subtree, so we have to also go there. After that we compare with 42, and after that there is 49. So we have got the first particular search key element. And so in this way there is similar searching technique. So this is a searching technique for BT. Now insertion and deletion in BT. The insertion in BT is a bit similar to what we have done in binary search trees, but as there are many elements stored in one node, so the process will have some bit of changes. So first two steps are what we do in BSTs: run the search operation and find the appropriate place of insertion. So we compare the search inserted element with the present elements, and if we find the proper place, then we insert the new key at the proper location. It may be beside some node or in between those, or it may happen somewhere in a leaf also. But whatever we do, there is a chance of overflow, means there are already the maximum number of elements which can be stored in that particular node. So in case of m-way search trees, we know that there we can store or maximum of m-1 elements and m children. So if there are m-1 elements in that node, then there has to be m children also, vice versa. If there are m children in that node, then there has to be m minus m elements. So any place in that case cannot be empty. So we have to take care of this part also. Minimum number thing that is more of a concern in deletion cases, but in case of insertion, this particular maximum number is important, because if there is a overflow, then we cannot insert, or insertion will cause a problem. So what we have to do, we have to, for example, if there is an inserted new node and there is a overflow, means maximum number is, then we have to split that particular node. So this next 2 points also say that the node along with a newly inserted key will split from the middle element. The middle element will become the parent for the other two child nodes. So this is important. If we after performing the split, we take out the middle element from them, actually from the earlier which was combined. From there we take out the middle element and we put the rest in the splitted nodes, and with the middle element we push it to the top level, so that particular element becomes the parent of those splitted nodes. The nodes must rearrange keys in ascending order. So this you can get, because all elements in a node are arranged in ascending order. That has to be done in those nodes also. And this is an important point. For this particular insertion process, a B tree grows upward from the leaves and not from the roots. Now, why this happens, we will explain a bit later, but let us first understand the insertion process. So as you can see, this is an example of a B tree which has an order of 6, because they have given an upper bound of elements 5, so order may be of 6, because then there can be maximum of 6 links and 5 elements. So order is 6. Now you see, this is a B tree and all elements are comfortably fitted in this B tree. Now they want to insert this particular element, which is 27, element or key, this particular key 27, and they are they first compare it with the elements. So when we compare in the root node, then we see that 9 is lesser than 27 but 30 is greater than 27. So we follow this particular subtree only. Now here we compare the element 12, all are less than this particular. Up to this part, if you consider, then all elements are lesser than this 27, and if you compare with this element, then all elements are greater. So we have to insert 27 in this particular position also. They have inserted here, but on doing so, on inserting this particular second leaf, 27 has been inserted. So the number of elements in that node becomes 6. So as we can see, that number of elements in that node has become 6, but the maximum number of elements that any node in this tree can store is 5, as we have seen here, as it is in the upper node. Sorry, I have to erase this particular node. So let's continue. So the maximum number of elements that can be stored is 5. So, but it is now containing 6. So a overflow type of thing occurs. So we have to perform a split. Now, how do we perform the split? We divide this two elements. This particular node into two other nodes. Now after we have splitted the nodes, the first node should have contained 12, 15 and 19, and second part now contains 25, 26 and 27. Now out of this particular arrangement, we take the middle element, which is here 19. Here 6 by 2 is 3, and they have taken the smallest one. Probably they may have taken 2 or 3, but they have taken the smallest one, so it is 19. So they have taken out this particular element 19, and they have added it to the top of this particular level, that is in this level, and 19 is kept here between 9 and 30. So this is our new modified root node, and these are the modified child nodes. So these two hasn't undergone any changes, but this particular node has, these two nodes are the splitted version of this particular node. So number of elements has been, if you read the description, then it will clear. So number of elements in that node becomes 6. So there are 6 elements. After this, a split is performed. We perform a split, which sends the median element 19 to the next upper level. Here the next upper level is the root. They have also. Now the root contains 3 elements. Earlier it contained 2 elements, and the number of leaves, earlier it was 3, and now it becomes 4. Now in the previous example, this slide we have shown that a bee tree grows upwards from the leaves and not from the root. So how this, you can say this, as we will explain in the next particular slide. So here also you can see that this is a particular bee tree. This bee tree has an order of 4 and can hold a maximum of 3 elements in each node. So we have considered a bee tree of order 4 such that there are 3 elements maximum, and 4 links are maximum stored in a node. Then in this tree we are trying to add particular element 10. So after adding 10, we are adding that this particular node leaf will have 9, 10, 11, 12. Number of elements is 4, but we can store a maximum of 3 elements in any node. So we have to perform a split. So here also a kind of split occurs. Here 9. First portion contains 9 and 10, and second portion contains 11 and 12, and then we have taken out this element 11, and this 11 is added between 8 and 13 in the root node. Now the root node contains 4 elements, 8, 11, 13 and 20, but we have seen that this particular tree is supposed to have a maximum of 3 elements in any node of the tree. So here also a overflow occurs. There are 4 elements. So here also we have to perform a split. Here also we have to perform a split. So first part will contain 8 and 11, and second part will contain 13 and 20. Now here also we have taken this particular 13 element and sent to top level. Now 13 becomes the root of both splitted level nodes 8, 11 and 20. And this particular 9, 10 and 12 are the splitted nodes of the first split that occurred. Now therefore after inserting this 10, 111 has increased in the tree, because this particular level containing 13 was not present in the original B tree, but after the insertion due to a series of splits and sending the element to the top level, this particular level with element 13 has been added. So number of levels in this tree has become 3. But you can see that the leaves are as it is, means leaves are in their level. The position of leaves has not changed, but position of root has changed. Generally what we do in case of BST insertion, we add a element to the bottom of a particular leaf based on position. Here if we insert some space, so it will be inserted at the bottom. So we say that a BST grows from top, grows towards downwards in the through leaves, but a B tree here though insertion takes place as leaves, but leaves do not go downward. Leaves remain in their position, and instead it is the root which changes its position. So earlier it was at the second level, now root is over at the third level. So we can say that a B tree grows upward through the roots, from the leaves through the root, which was the point here. A B tree goes upward from the leaves and not from the root. Because leaves are constant in their position and root changes its position. So the description is says the same thing. Insert 10 in the tree, then equally inserted in one of the leaves, which will have 4 elements. So we perform a split and send the median element 11 to the next upper level. So they have taken the latter half of the median, because in generally if there are even numbers, then there can be either a fraction is taken out of 2 elements, or we have to we can take any one of the two middle elements as the median. So they have taken the, in the earlier example they have taken the first middle position, and this example they have taken the second middle position. The middle element 13 is taken out and another node is created with it, which becomes the parent of the splitted node and also a new root of the tree. So the number of levels in the tree has increased by 1. So as we have seen that number of levels has increased by 1, then another level has increased, and instead of the roots the leaves remain fixed in their levels. So here you can see that leaves are fixed in their levels, but root has decelerated. So the tree grows from this upwards and through the root. Now, by the way, I am to mention another thing, that it is not always necessary that you are first inserting the element and then perform splitting. In most cases, before inserting, you perform the split. You check that its addition doesn't cause any overflow, and if overflow occurs, then you perform the split and then add the new element. So let's see another case of insertion. So this is insertion. This is a series of insertion, means what set of numbers have been inserted to this BT. So what are the keys that they have added? 78, 52, 81, 40, 33, 90, 85, 20 and 38 in this order in an initial empty BT of order 3. So they have mentioned the order. So if we know the order, then we can find what can be the maximum number of elements in any node. Maximum number of elements has to be 2, and surrounding these 2 elements we can have 3 subtree. So let's start adding. First element A78 is added. So it's a simple node. Then we insert 52. 50 we have added before 78 to maintain this ascending order. After that we add 81. Now 81 comes in mean violates this particular condition of maximum elements. So here we have to perform a split, and since there are 3 elements, so the middle element is obviously this 78. So they have so 78 is moved upward, and here we have to do elements 52 and 81. That's it. After that, 40 is added, and 40 can be added without any problem because there are 2 elements after insertion, so that's not a problem. After that, 33. Now 33 was supposed to be added here before 40, but here also overflow occurs because there are 3 elements, and so again another split occurs, and here is median element is 40, and 40 becomes the neighbor of 78. So the root now contains 2 elements, and there are 3 things. After this we have inserted 90. 90 is also conveniently added beside 81. Now after this they have added again 85. Now 85 goes between this particular node. Yes, 2 nodes, 81, 85, 85 and 90. But here also overflow occurs. Now this is an example of tree's growth, because after 85 has been shifted in this node, here also overflow occurs because there are 3 elements. Now here also split occurs, and 78 is shifted to the next level, so we get another level another +1 level. So here is the final tree. It looks a bit like a binary search tree, but it is not a binary search tree, it is a bit tree. So after this they added 20, so 20 is added without any problem. This is my 33. After that we have TA. Now it was supposed to be added in this position, but here also there are 3 elements, so we have shift 33 in the upper level. So we have this particular we have this final BT as our result. Description is also, so what where have been splits have splits occur after inserting 81, 33 and 85, and changes in levels of T has occurred when we have added 81 and 85. So please occur 81 and 33 and 85, and after 85 we have the number of levels. So this was with insertion. Now let's discuss about deletion. So while deleting an element from a node of a tree, we have to keep 2 things in mind. First of all, as we have seen in case of insertion, that if the node to which we are inserting an element already contains the maximum number of elements that it can store, then inserting a new element to the that node will cause an overflow. Then a split occurs and we proceed as gradually. So in that case an overflow occurs. Now in case of deletion, if the particular node from which we are deleting already contains minimum number of elements that can be stored in that leaf, so which is ceiling of m by 2 minus 1, then in that case if we try to remove the element, then an underflow occurs. So we have to keep in mind this situation when we go on deleting. There is another thing. Suppose a node contains some number of elements which is within the minimum number of elements and the maximum number of elements, means minimum was sealed of m by 2 minus 1 and maximum was as m minus 1, including both cases. This is inclusive both cases, and for that particular number of element which is containing, it has to contain that number of childlings, plus 1 was another childling. So if there are m number of elements stored there, then it has to contain m plus 1 number of childlings, means links to sub. Now somehow if you are deleting either from leaf or internal node, if for example if you are deleting from a leaf, the leaf somehow becomes empty, then in this case there will it will be sensible to remove that node only, and then we will be having, so for example the parent node had 4 elements and there was 5 links to subtrees, means link to 5 subtrees. Now after this particular subtree has been edited, there are 4 links, 4 child links. Now this situation is not cannot be accepted in B trees. So in this case, so if there are 4 elements in the node, then there has to be 5 child links. There cannot be 4 child links in the node. So you have to manage this situation also. So how we are dealing with the deletion cases? So deletion in B trees can be discussed as from leaves also, and then from internal nodes also. So at first we discuss about what we shall do in case of leaves. So case 1 says that if the key k is in a leaf node and removing it doesn't cause that leaf to have too few keys. Just simply remove it. So as we have talked about in underflow, that if there are already minimum number of keys present and deleting any key from there would cause an underflow, but if there are adequate number of elements in the node such that it is more than the minimum number required to be stored, means it is more than the minimum limit. So in that case, if we remove one element, then that will not cause an underflow. So in this case, we can simply remove that element. We don't have to do any further. Now case 2 deals with that situation when there are minimum number of elements stored there and we have to perform a deletion from that node. So key is present in leaf node, but a leaf node has minimum number of elements. So in that case, what we have to do, we have to check the siblings. So we proceed as if the left sibling has more than the minimum number required, then borrow a key from there. Else, if the right sibling has more than the minimum required, then borrow from the right sibling. Now we at first check the left sibling of that leaf node from where we are performing the deletion. Now if that left sibling has more than the number of minimum number of elements required, then we can ask that node to borrow a key to the leaf from where the deletion has occurred. Now here borrowing means slightly different sense. That borrowing here means sending the element to parent node and bringing the parent element to the leaf. So as we know that in BST also the node elements are sorted within themselves, and the subtree elements and the node element parent node elements are sorted among themselves. So if we talk about borrowing a key from a particular sibling, then we cannot just transfer a node from this element and put it into the next node, means the one from where we have deleted that an element. So the process would be, we take the required key, means whatever key we require, we first send it to the this one makes a bit messy, so I am redrawing it. So as I was telling that if we are talking about borrowing key, so we cannot directly transfer to the next node. Otherwise, the order in which the elements have been stored in while we are talking about order, we have to keep in mind first the left, then root, then right, because we perform an in-order traversal. So if we just transfer a node from this node to this node, then the order of the elements will be damaged. Order will be damaged, so that we cannot allow. And so the process of borrowing key would be, we send the required borrowed key, which is in case of left sibling it will be the last element, and in case of right sibling it will be the first element. First transfer this borrowed key into the parent node, and from there we just send the required we send one element from the parent node to the node from there where deletion has occurred to the node that has requested the key. In the if we are borrowing from left sibling, then the first element will be transferred there to that node, and if we are borrowing from right one, then the last element will be transferred there. So this is the process of borrowing. And the next point says, now in both cases we had considered that the sibling from where we have borrowed, any one of them has adequate number of keys. That means after borrowing there will not be any underflow. The siblings had more than the minimum required number of keys, but it may happen that both the left and the right sibling of the node have minimum number of elements required. So in that case, what we should do, if both siblings have minimum number of elements, then we just merge the leaf with the left or right sibling. So that node from where deletion has occurred, we just merge it with the left one, or in some cases we may merge with the right one. Now along with the parent node element of the sibling, now here we also have to include the parent element in the one. So because between the left sibling elements and the node element where the deletion has occurred, there has to be some parent element in the parent node. There has to be some element, because in between the elements you have those, in between the subtree links you have this particular element stuff. So this will have a middle value between the left sibling values and the node values, deleted node value. So this value, while doing merging, we have to bring in this value to that merge node. Now we may do it before deletion also. In that case, some cases overflow may occur, or we first delete and then perform mergers as that there is more than, and in both cases the merge node will have more than minimum number of elements which we require. In some cases the maximum number also may be achieved. So let's come to what we shall do in case of internal node. Now the internal node cases also follow a similar approach, but here the thing is that we have to replace the internal node's value after deleting by a predecessor or successor of the node. So as for example, as we have seen in binary search deletion, that if there is an element which is to be deleted and that element has two children, so we cannot delete that particular element directly. So what we have to do, we have to first suppose we are deleting this node, then you cannot delete this node directly because that will cause a problem. So in that case, what we do is that we first find the in-order successor of that node, and then we replace that in-order successor. Now we replace that deleted node's value with the in-order successor's value, and we set the deleted node's value to the to that position where it occurs. Now we can simply remove the in-order that node from which now contains the deleted element. Now that process can undergo recursion because it may not be always that in-order successor is a leaf. So we have to proceed accordingly. Now in case of the deletion from DTs also a similar kind of thing occurs. Now along with that, this concept of borrowing is also there. We have to somehow add that. Now we just consider the cases if the child we have an internal node from where we are deleting that and that has a set of subtrees, and then what will happen that if the child that precedes k in node, now this means the node containing in-order predecessor of k. Now that means if you have an element in the internal node, then that element in-order predecessor means the element that comes before this deleted element in in-order traversal, that has to occur in the left half left subtree of that element, is the element, and then there are two subtrees of that particular element, and we are considering the left subtree that will contain the in-order predecessor. Now if we take the in-order predecessor is more than minimum required, such that deleting any node from this part will not cause an underflow, then find that in-order predecessor of k dash in y. Then we first find the in-order predecessor there, which is generally the last element generally. Then what we do is that we remove that node which contain that in-order predecessor k dash, and then replace k is the element which was contained in the internal node, that the element that we want to delete, with k dash in x. See, in x means x is that node that dealing with. So here it is a mistake, that will be k. So in we will replace that particular element with k, the in-order predecessor. Now if we see that the left sibling can undergo an overflow, because as if we tend to transfer nodes, then we have to take the right sibling. If we are performing deleting from this part, then it will be left sibling and this will be right sibling. Now if the child containing k in node containing in-order successor of k that has more than minimum required, then find that in-order successor in k dash in y, recursively delete k dash and replace k with k dash in x. So we perform a similar thing, that we perform we find the in-order successor of that element, and that will be present in the right subtree. Usually the first element serves as the in-order successor, and then we first delete the node containing that in-order successor, and then replace the node element which was to be deleted with the in-order successor. Now third case, when both of the siblings contain siblings contain minimum number of elements required, then the easiest thing would be to merge y and z after deleting k. Means what? If we have deleted an internal node from there, and if you check both the left sibling and right sibling there, and you see that both of them contain minimum number, and in that case, sorry, this is not the one from where deletion occurs. Actually, deletion occurs from internal side. So both left sibling and right sibling of that internal node has minimum number. Then the best thing would be to merge both of these elements to both of these node elements together. As we have discussed previously, that if there are some number of elements, then the in a node, then there has to be that number of elements plus one number of child links. So if we merge those, if we delete anything from internal node, then that one will fall short. As we have decreased the number of elements by 1, in this case, if there are lesser number of elements in both siblings, then we just merge both things, then we just remove one subtree link. So now node also remove and subtree also remove. So we will have one less number of elements and one less number of subtrees. So this is the discussion about deletion. Now discussion will be a bit difficult to understand without examples. So let's talk about examples. So this is an example of deletion from the list. As we have seen that if an element is deleted from the list such that no underflow occurs, then we can safely remove it. So this case does not deal particularly with that case, but we can discuss a bit here. So this is the B tree. We can consider this tree to have an order of 3. There are maximum of 3 elements, and maximum number of elements that can be stored is 2. Now if we try to delete 25, and the minimum number of elements that we can store is 3 by 2. Now we take ceiling, so that will be 2 minus 1 is 1. So 1 can be the minimum number of elements stored there, and 2 is the maximum. So if we try to remove 25 from this element, now this particular node has maximum number of elements that can be stored. Now after deleting 25, there will not be any underflow because it still has one element, so that will not go and constant, and we simply delete. And so for this reason we have not included that this example. Now we this case discusses about the second case, that when there is present in the leaf, but the leaf node has minimum number of elements. Now after deleting the node element, that leaf has that leaf gets underflow because it has less than the minimum number of elements required. So in that case, what the thing that we have done, that we have discussed. Now this is the example. So in this example, we are deleting 31 from this tree. Now we after deleting 31, we see that this particular leaf is empty, but minimum number of elements that can be stored there is 1. So any leaf cannot be empty here. So what we have to do in this case, we have to borrow a key from the left sibling. Now if left sibling also has minimum, then the right sibling. So in this case we take the left sibling, which is now 25 and 28. We are not considering that particular case when 25 is deleted. So we let us erase this part. Sorry. So this is the node, this is the left sibling of this 31. So it contains 25 and 28. Now this is more therefore this sibling has more than minimum number required, so we can easily borrow an element from there. So we borrow. So how the borrow process takes place? We shift the largest element there, which is 28, to the top level, which is shown here, and we take an element from the parent node. This 30, and which is also 30. Now this 30 element fills the vacant space, means the leaf from where 31 has been deleted. So that particular leaf now contains 30, and this leaf simply contains now only 25, and the parent now contains 28 and 33 instead of 30 and 33. So this is the condition when there was one sibling which had more than minimum number of elements. This example illustrates one case when deletion location has minimum number of elements. When deletion location is here, it is 31. Now we are deleting. Here after deleting 31, the containing nodes become empty, but the minimum number of minimum number of elements will be 1. So the left sibling of the node is such which has 2 keys. Now 2 is the maximum number, but here the thing is that 1 is the minimum number and 2 is the maximum. So we cannot do anything more. If the maximum was 3, then if there were 2 elements also, then we could have borrowed elements. So after that, we have checked the left sibling which has 2 keys. So key 20 is shifted to the parent node and the key 30 is sent to the empty node. Now the satisfy the required key, and the left sibling has 1 key instead of 2, which is this case. So this is the first case of deletion from list when the deletion location has when the one of the siblings have more than minimum number of keys. Now this is the second case when after deletion we have checked both sides of the siblings, and we see that they are both of them contain minimum number of elements. So you can see here in the previous example they are shifted 30 to the bottom node, and in the next example they are deleting 30 themselves only for the node elastic in the example. So here 30 is the node element which is to be deleted from there, and we had deleted first performed the deletion there. Now after this we were supposed to borrow an element from any of the siblings. It is such that the empty space which has occurred here that can be filled, because the minimum number of elements required was 1, but after deleting this element the leaf now contains no element, 0. So we have to fill it by borrowing from the siblings. But however the left sibling itself has one element which is 25, and right sibling also has only one element which is 35. So both contain minimum number of elements. So what we have to do in that case? We have to merge this particular empty node after deleting 30 with the left sibling. Here we are considering the left sibling only. We merge the empty node with the left sibling and then pull one element from the parent node. So 28 is the number which occurs in between the left sibling and the empty node. You have to pull that that element which comes in between these two nodes. So we have and fill that empty node with that that element which has been pulled. Excuse me. we will fill the empty node with that element which we have pulled from there. So we have a new node which contains two elements, 25 and 28. These are two elements. There are two elements in the new node, and after that the parent node has only one element which is 33, and then we have the right sibling for that would have been 35, not 45. So that so in this, now this subtree will have two children. The parent node will have two children instead of 3, which was earlier. So let's read the description. This example illustrates the case when the deletion location and the siblings both have minimum number of elements. Here, after deleting 30, the containing node becomes empty. That we have seen, because minimum number of elements required is 1, but if the node is empty, then that condition is violated. Then after that, both the left and the right sibling have only one key. So there are only one keys each in both siblings. So we have to merge it with merge the empty node with the left sibling, and it is populated with key 28. So one element for the element being between those two nodes have been brought in to and that element has filled the empty node. Then the parent node will have just one node which supports two killings. Now had it at 33 been inside, sorry, at 30. Now we could also merge this empty node with the right sibling, which is 35. In that case, we have to bring in the middle element 33. So that in that case, this partition had 25 and root node should have been 28, and then this node will be having two elements 33 and 45. But in most of the cases, left part is given priority. This is also true in our case, because most of us write from left to right, so that makes sense. So let's discuss deletion cases from the internal node. So once we have understood the deletion cases from the leaves, so it will be a bit easier to understand how we delete elements from the internal nodes. Now there is only one case that we have to replace that internal node's value with another predecessor or successor as per required. So in this example, we want to delete 33. This is an internal node from there. Now, as we have learned in the description, that if the child that possesses k in node has more than the minimum required, means the left side, it will refer to the left child of that internal node. So this particular left child of the element which we are deleting, which is 31 and 32, that has more number of elements than the minimum which we require. So this node, which is the left child, will contain the in-order predecessor of 33, which is 32. So if we perform in-order traversal, then 32 will come before 33, and this node has more than minimum required, so we can transfer one key from there to that internal node. and they have also transferred their 32 to the upper node. So now after transfer we have this this sub-T. Now the internal node still has two elements, but element that we have deleted is not there, and that has been replaced by one element from the leaves. The leaves. So so this is example illustrates the base case. If after deleting 33 we need to replace it with the in order predecessor, and the left sibling has more than minimum required is 32, which is done because if the node has three links, it should have two keys. If there are obviously if there are three child links there, then we should have two elements in the parent node. So for example, if we had chosen 35, then 35 from for borrowing key, then after borrowing that 35 would had no element, and that would have better made a sense to remove that node, but then there will be two elements and two nodes, so that doesn't make any sense. So we have to borrow from the one which has more than the minimum. Now this is the second case of internal node deletion. In this case, the children of the node from which we are deleting, both of the children have minimum number of keys. So here that we are deleting 30 from here, and the children are left children is 25, right children contains 31. So both contain one element. Now we have seen that 1 is the minimum number of element that can be stored in any node except root. So we cannot borrow any key from any of the siblings. So what we have to do, we remove 30, and after that we just merge 25 and 31. Just merge 25 and 31. Therefore after merging you will get a new node which has two elements, 25 and 31, and we have seen that 2 is the maximum number of elements which can be inserted there, and the parent node now has one element instead of 2, so there no replacement has been made available in this case. So parent node has now one element instead of 2, and as we have discussed, since there is one element here, so there has to contain two child links, so there are two child links instead of 3, because and this particular merger has reduced the number of child links and thus kept the condition. So the description also say that this example illustrates the case when the children have minimum number of keys. So here after deleting 30, you see both the predecessor and successor have minimum number of keys required, and replacing with another successor will not work. So we just have to merge the left and right sibling, after which the parent node will have only one key. So this is completely easier to understand. Now this is also another case of deletion. Now this case particularly deals with the fact that how a B tree shrinks. As we have seen in the previous example, that due to B tree insertion, the leaves remain constant in their position, but the position of root changes. It was earlier it was in the level it had earlier this was the position of the root, and after insertion the number of levels in the tree has increased. There is another level which has become the root of the tree. So a bee tree grows upward, and so if insertion causes that tree to grow upward, then division will cause that tree to shrink downward. So this example discusses this aspect, that we have this particular bee tree which looks like a BST, but it is also a bee tree. Order 2 probably, because there are two Chinese. And then we have deleted 10. Now due to that we have deleted 10 from here. Now both elements contain minimum number of required keys. So they have merged those two elements, but there wasn't any element with that we have got. We can fill this empty space. There is no if there is no element in the node, then how can we get a subtree of that? So an element has to come, and that comes from, now before coming, this element first merges with the 35. Oh sorry, the order is 3. So the minimum number of elements has to be 1. Now after before filling this empty space, you have to first merge it with 35, and then this top node, which is root node 20, comes together with that 35. It fills the space beside 35. So after filling the space, we have this tree. Now here the root now contains two elements, and its position has changed. It has gone one level down. The root's position has got changed. It has gone one level downward. It was some 3 layer. It was 3 layers of height. Now it has 2 layers of height. Top level, second position, is present as second position, and there are leaves are there in their position. Now earlier there were 4 leaves. Now it has 3 leaves. Now one of the leaves contain 2 elements, which is 5 and 15. So this is an example of how the division has caused a reduction in height of the tree. If you check the description, this is an example of how the height of bee tree can be reduced due to division. After deleting 10, the children have been merged by linking the new node to present parent would violate this property. So the parents also undergo a merger, and the height of tree reduces from 3 to 2. So earlier there were 3 levels in the tree, now it has 2 levels. Now if you wonder that why the style of this element is different, because in the original example this node was given wrong. This 20 and 35 was reiterated there, so we have replaced it. So this is deletion in bee trees. Now we come to the question, why we require bee trees. Now in order to answer this question, first we have to get a brief idea about how memories work in our computers and how we access some data from our computers. So if you have followed your computer organization class, there will be a chapter based on memories. If it has not been covered now, then in the future it will be covered. So you will get the idea, but you can get a brief idea of the memory hierarchy. Means that we have a different types of memories available, such as primary memory, secondary memory. The primary memory is the RAM, is what we know as the RAM, and the secondary memory, which we use as popular hard disk drive, or recent solid state drives have also come in action. Now, whatever the type may be, the important thing that we have to notice that a primary memory, which is memory of RAM, it is much faster. You can retrieve data from the primary memory in a much smaller time than from a secondary memory, say disk drive or magnetic tape. So data access in a magnetic hard disk or a magnetic tape takes more amount of time than what it takes in a primary memory. However, primary memory has a smaller capacity. It can hold smaller amount of data than secondary memory. So you can see in computers or laptops that the RAM is of 2 GB or 4 GB or 8 GB, and you have a hard disk drives of say 100, 200, 500 GB, or now you have 1 TB also hard disk drive. So the thing is, the secondary memories have more space than the primary ones. One thing that is important is that almost all processing occurs in the main memory. Main memory or processing occurs. The processor computer interacts mainly with the main memory. So whatever data that we want for processing, that has to remain on the main memory. Now, however, we have also seen that the main memory has a very less capacity, and we have to access the data which is generally stored in secondary memory, because as it has more space, and RAM is also volatile, as we have seen. So that has to be stored in secondary memory if we want to store some data. So huge amount of data cannot fit in memory. So the secondary so the data which we often want to access is quite of a large number of quite of a large data than the primary memory that it can hold. Obviously, now you have greater capacities of RAM. It is, however, for larger data, it is still true. It cannot hold larger amount of data. So, if we have that huge amount of data which the RAM cannot hold, then how we access or we work with that data which was stored in secondary disk, that when the number of keys is high, the data is read from disk in the form of log. So the meaning is that if you want to access and process data from secondary memory, then you have to transfer data from the secondary memory to the main memory, and you do that block by block. Means you first send one block of data to the main memory, then the processor does its processing or operations what is required, then it returns the processed data to the secondary memory, then the secondary memory transfers another block of data, and processing occurs, and so on. So this particular block being transfer occurs. Now, as we have told, the secondary memory is quite, now accessing data in secondary memory is quite time taking. It is much slower. So often to reduce the access time, we use a cache memory. Cache memory is employed between them to allow faster data retrieval. So some data which may be occur may be required more often than the other data that can be stored in a small cache memory, such that we access it faster. Now, wherever you store this particular this data, whether in main memory or in secondary memory or in cache, we need to have somewhat a type of an organization. Means the data should have some structure. Although non-structured data is available, but in most cases the data has to be stored in some data structure, for which we study all these data structure things. So in this type of data structure things, they store this data. So similarly, the data that has to be stored, that has to be stored in memory from some graph also, or as a tree also. Data is often stored in memory in form of a tree. Now the question is, what if we use the binary search tree in storing data? So the main problem which occurs is that if you have a BST whose nodes are stored in a random order in memory, then each time you follow a pointer, the machine will have to pull in a new block of memory into the cache. Now what happens is that, suppose you have some data stored in secondary memory, means the hard disk, and that is stored in form of a binary search tree. Now, as we have seen that the capacity of a single node of a binary search tree is much lesser, and in our purpose we use it as one, and in case of real computers it may be slightly more than that, but not that much. So, and the nodes often contain keys, means in this case we can assume keys as memory addresses of the data which we are storing. So suppose if we want some data from some memory location, then that memory location's data has to be stored in some node of the tree, and then you have to fetch the data and you have to fetch that information data from there to the main memory. Now the thing is that a particular node of the tree can hold either one memory address or very quite a smaller amount of data. So each time if we want data from the secondary memory, then we have to again and again access the secondary memory. For example, processor is requested for some memory addresses data, and then say in secondary memory it is searching for data in that memory address, and such that it will load that memory data into the main memory. Now that is a huge again it wants some data from another location, and again it has to fetch data to the it has to say secondary it has to send data to the main memory again. So on the whole, you have to access this particular secondary memory again and again. So as we have seen that secondary memory access takes a lot of time. Now this lot of time is another offense, because the secondary memory access time seems almost in terms of milliseconds, and so 1 ms or 2 ms or something like that. But the thing is that as you know that processors have become highly fast. They have a huge speed, so you have speeds in terms of gigahertz. So the processor time cycle will be in terms of nanoseconds. So milliseconds in terms of nanoseconds will be a huge quantity. So for the processor, this memory access will be extremely slow in that case. So we need some faster ways, and as we have seen that cache memory is one way to reduce access, and that is why we also need some optimization in the way we store data also. So VSTs are not that useful, and along with that there is another reason. The second point is saying that the computer program tends to access same set of memory locations for a particular time period, locality of reference. This point is important in terms of memory access. So for example, if suppose a computer has processor has accessed some data from a memory address 1, then there are high chances that the memory access is next access to secondary memory will search for data in memory address 2 means the consecutive memory accesses will mostly be in nearby memory addresses. So if you for another example, you can say, suppose the processor has accessed memory from 1000 means 1000, then it is highly probable that the next memory access will either occur for 999 or 1001 or 1002. So nearby data will be accessed nearby data will be accessed in higher probability. So there are very less chances that you after access request for memory address 2 comes, the next request for memory access comes for memory location say 90 or 40 even. So this generally happens very much for loops, the computer programming loops, because instructions are stored sequentially. So in case of loops, you have to discretely perform a set of instructions. So instructions have to be stored somewhere in memory addresses. So those memory addresses are constantly accessed for most of the time. So this property is called a locality of reference, and this is quite important in the context of memory access. So the next point just says that if you are storing tree on disk, means tree data structure, you want to make sure that a given disk read is as effective as possible. So if we have fetched or borrowed some data from the secondary memory, then you must do it in such a way that you can make maximum utilization of that access. So you have brought such amount of data which is mostly used by the processor, by the processor, that is we have processed this the data that we have processed enough makes the processor needs satisfied. For a given memory access, the next access may occur at nearby memory location. That the thing that we have said. So an adequate number of data is to be brought at a single data interval. In BSTs also a single node contains single data, or if multiple data, then comparatively lesser number of data stored in one node. So secondary memory accesses will be more. So we want such a structure such that one memory access brings quite a lot of data to the main memory and most of the access needs are satisfied. So here BT comes in our disk. So as we have seen that a BT contains quite a large number of data in one node. If we bring one block of data from the BT, then we can get a lot of data and most of the access needs have been satisfied. The time, so the number of disk access, secondary memory accesses will be lesser. So this first point also tells this, that VTs are a way to get better locality by putting multiple elements into each tree node. Also, if you are searching for the data in the tree, then you have to traverse through the nodes, and we have seen in case of such operations in BSTs or say this BLT, the search time is in log n, and that is highly dependent on the height of that tree. The height of the tree determines the search operation, insertion or deletion operations. So if we keep the height smaller, then the access times will be smaller, comparatively smaller as compared to the trees which have a higher heights. So in case of BST, there is another disadvantage, is that we cannot store much data in a node, and therefore the height of the tree will increase. Height of the tree increases, and we have a larger heights of tree. When in case of BT, we store a large amount of data in a node. So the BT after insertion grows quite slowly. We have seen in the examples that BTs don't have much heights of more than 2 or 3. So this provides a good advantage, and this is partly also because then a BT node points to multiple number of nodes, multiple number of subtrees. So a BT of order 5 will have 5 subtrees, maximum 5 subtree rings for each node. So that adds to the advantage of lower heights. So the next point says that they have a high branching factor, much larger than 2. BSTs have branching factor of 2 because one node will divide to 2 nodes, which ensure that few disk reads are needed to navigate to the place where data is stored. We ensure that few means what? If we store data in form of a BT in a secondary node, then after accesses to secondary memory will bring in more data. So the time and more data will be used. So the time taken for data secondary memory data access will uh, reduce very much. So next point also says that the height of BT is kept low by putting maximum possible keys in BT node, that we have discussed. Now the fact is that the BT node size is kept equal to the disk block size. So as we have said that data transfer from the secondary memory to primary memory occurs in terms of disk block. So a BT node size is also kept equal to that disk block size, such that one disk block carries most of the data that we require. Okay, so main memory is almost filled, and the processor gets whatever data is. Now this is very much useful in case of databases. Now if you ask about databases, so you can say that it is a large collection of data required for certain purposes. So for example, if you are storing the results of students in a college or school, or if you are storing the details of officers in a company, so for these special types of storage structures are made, which is called a database, and for these special operations are also made. So you will get to know databases in future. Now here just remember that we store huge collections of data. Now as we have seen that main memory does not have that much of that capacity, so this has to be stored in secondary memory, and then we are accessing that data in terms of blocks. So in this case BTs are very much useful because they can store a lot of data in nodes, so the access time will reduce very much. The databases contain very big large amounts of data. So in that case we also use indexes. It is similar to what we have generally used in our practical notebooks. The one entry refers to one experiment or topic. So similarly, one index entry refers to one data location, and that is stored somewhere in the memory. And we can also use dynamic multiple indexing, means index of indexes. So this increases the efficiency of data retrieval on them. Now although we have a significant advantage of using BT, there are some small disadvantages. Means not disadvantages, there are some shortcomings. These are the things that BT is required to be improved upon. So the first point on which we need to remember is multi-level index helps in breaking down the index into several small indexes. So as we have discussed earlier, that multi-level indexes are indexes of indexes. So you can visualize something index as something like that. So these are large data chunks, and after this, and these are the index references. So this is the. Now it may also happen that there is a large the data is too large, and on maintaining that the index even the index becomes quite large. So in to access that, we may require another index, such that one entry refers to one entry in the main index, and second another index refers to another. So this is a multiple index. Now the problem that occurs in BT is that a BT stores the data pointer to the disk-like block containing the key value corresponding to the particular key value and with the key value in the node of the B tree. So as we have seen in B tree nodes, we have this in our simple example we have seen that these are the keys which we store in our nodes, and in real life examples along with the key they also contain data pointers, means they're pointed to the data which we have stored in some other location. So the problem is then in case of B trees, both the data pointer and the key has been stored in nodes in a particular B tree node, whether it is internal node or it is leaf node. So that now what the problem does it cause is that it reduces the number of entries that can be packed into the node of a B tree. So for a node we could have stored multiple number of nodes, multiple number of entries in a particular node, but the node is of a particular capacity, but the node also contains the links to the data, means memory accesses or addresses or of the data which we have stored. So these are stored together in B trees. So as a result, the amount of data which we can store in a B tree is reduced. We could have stored more number of keys, and this increases the increase in number of levels to the B tree. And as a result, if we can store a fixed number of keys in a node, then we could have one kind of height could have been achieved in B tree. Now if we have stored some more keys there, then height will reduce of the tree will reduce, obviously. So this also adds to another problem that, as we know that searching operation depends on height, so searching for some data is slower processing. Data can be found on internal nodes as well as on the leaf nodes. Now we have to, since data pointers are also stored in the internal, then we have to access that whole tree, means the leaf nodes as well as the internal nodes and the root. We have to access through the height of that. So that takes more time. Though, can we reduce the time of access there? The answer is yes, and the answer is bit, directly modified bit. Now the question is, what are B trees? So P plus T eliminates the drawback of B trees by storing data pointers only at the leaf nodes of that. So what we have seen in the previous nodes, that a B tree stores the data pointer corresponding to a particular key value along with the key value in the node of it. So the keys which we store in our B tree will actually refer to some data point, will be associated with some data pointer, which will again point to some data stored in secondary memory or in form of memory, or in case of DVMS or something like that. So as we have seen that both keys and data pointer are stored in by a particular node of a bit. So as we have discussed that this arrangement reduces the number of entries that can be packed into the nodal bit. Means as we also store data pointer in the node, then the number of keys that we can adjust there will reduce. So that is why we can accommodate lesser number of keys, and so height of the tree which we grow from due to insertion will be more, and the time so the time taken for access of data in BTs will be greater. But in B plus trees, a particular node contains only the key value, and then you have those subtree links which will also be stored in case of B trees, but in case of data pointer that which was added later, this data pointer things will be stored only in the nodes which are the leaves of that, not in the nodes which are the internal nodes. Internal nodes will contain only the key or subtree links. Contain the keys. It will contain only the keys and subtrees, no data pointers are there. Now the question is, if no data pointers are there in the leaves, then what is the use of this particular tree structure? And the answer is that the keys, the data pointers are stored in leaves only and not the keys. So what is the usefulness of storing keys in higher levels? Oh, I forgot to mention another thing, that since the data is only stored in the leaves and keys can be stored in in both leaves and internal nodes, so that is why there will be redundant key entry. So for the data pointer to which the key is associated, an entry of the key will be present in the leaf node also, and the key entry will be present in an internet node also. So for example, you can see this 13 key, which it has a particular data pointer associated with. So it is present in the leaf, and along with that it is also present as the root of the leaf. Now why it is present in the root of the leaf? So to allow easier access, because access generally occurs from the top, and so after getting the entry at the internal one, we can again search the leaf for the actual data. Now as a result, leaves now gain an higher importance in those bits. So the leaf nodes store all key values along with their corresponding data pointers to the disk cipher. So leaf node will contain all the data, all the keys which are present in the tree, and along with that corresponding data pointers will be there. And the internal node will contain some of the keys, which will allow easier access to the keys. Now, as now we have understood that leaves will anyhow have to be accessed to get the data. So we have to make some optimization in leaves access also. So the another main feature of ETC is that leaf nodes are linked to provide ordered access to the record. So the leaves that are stored, in between them there is a link based on pointers. Now we already know that the elements are stored in sorted order, so the leaves will also follow a sorted order. Leaves will be stored. We can therefore perform an ordered access. So here you can see that in the leaf level all elements are in sorted order. So this also forms a linked list type of thing to make the search queries more efficient. So why this linking makes the search efficient? Because if these links were not there, then for accessing, if we don't get a data at a particular level, then we have to again go to the parent level, then we have to again return to the next leaf. Then if there also it doesn't occur, then we have to again go to the parent level. So there will be more number accesses, and those are redundant accesses. So it is far better to link these nodes with the linked list, which will allow easier access. So we have to access only the leaves, no entering into the tree. So this is the BT. Now this is the structure of BT. So we have first shown the images, because later on giving description will make it easier. So this is the structure of an internal node. And one thing is important is that internal nodes are of order A. So this is okay, because in B trees also we have a particular order, that this will be a maximum number of elements that can be stored is m minus 1, where m is the order. And so in case of B trees also, in case of only internal nodes, the maximum number of elements will be also a minus 1. So this kind of similar constant is there, and you can also see that there also order is there. These are key elements, and all elements before k1 are stored in a particular left subtree. This is similar to what we have studied in B trees. Then I think you can understand that this is ki minus 1, this is ki, and this is the pointer to subtree which contains all nodes between these two. And then this is the final element, which is c minus 1. Actually it will be a, because there are a element, a minus 1 links and a child. So this is what similar to BT. But there is a important difference is that till now this internal node is of order A, that is defined for the internal nodes only. And here we have this important difference, that for leaves we have another order. Leaves are of order B. So in case of B trees, we have the leaves and the internal nodes have same order, but in case of B plus trees, the leaves have another kind of order, which is in this example is B. So this is the structure. Otherwise it's mostly similar, but the number of elements now which can be hold is B minus 1. Now here this is the arrangement also. K is the key, this is a story, and along with that there will be a data pointer. Now in examples of B tree, the data pointer is generally not shown, but it is it may be there if we are using B tree for storing memory. Now as we have told that B trees are not much used for storing data in memory, so B plus T are used. So in B plus T they are giving the example. So here we go upon sets of keys and data points. Now we go till up to a b minus 1. So c is just a constant for this part, it will be a, and here it will be b. And after that there is the thing, the p next. This is pointed to the next leaf. next leaf node in that. So I think you can get the idea. So the next two slides talk briefly these things only, that each internal node is of form P1 K1 P2 K2 PC1 -1 P KC -1. So this is just this structure. This is just this structure P1 K1 K. So and this is also similar to B3, type of thing, but this is only for internal. And C, where C is less than or equal to A. So this is C is constant, and as we have told, it will range for 1. It will range from 1 and till it will vary till up to A. And each Pi is a key pointer, means pointer to sub key or child link, which we were telling in case of bits. It points to another node of the key, and each Ki is key value. Here we can understand that Ki is the. So next point is also the same. Each internal node has as small a tree pointer. So this is similar to what we have learned in BT, that if there is a tree of order A, then the number of child links for maximum number of child links for a bit node will be A, and the maximum number of elements stored is A minus 1. So this is applicable for B plus tree also. So internal node will have most A tree point. The root node has at least 2 tree pointers. So that the DPM becomes, as we are doing insertion, so often there is a key and a data pointer. So often they are in two terms, while the other internal nodes have at least ceiling A by 2 tree pointers each. Yes, means the root node may have one child link, may have one node and 2 child links, and the internal nodes have at least ceiling of A by 2. So that we have said that minimum number, there is a condition on the minimum number of elements there. So in case of B tree also, the minimum number of elements that we can store, we can say with ceiling of A by 2 minus 1, and number of child links, minimum number of child links that we can store internally is ceiling of A by 2 tree pointers. If any internal node has C pointers, C less than equal to C, then it has C minus 1 key value. So that we have said that in between those child pointers, the key elements have been stuffed. So if there are C elements which are stored, then C plus 1 will be the number of child links, and conversely, if there are C number of child links stored, then the number of elements stored is C minus 1. So these properties are more or less similar to that in BT. The structure of leaves. Now in terms of leaves, there is a small considerable difference. Firstly, the leaf node is of the form K1 and D1 and K2 D2, where now this is each represents a tuple of K1 and K1 which is the key, and D1 which is the data pointer. So as we have seen in the figure only, the leaf is represented as a particular node, the particular tuple type of thing, as a set of key and data points. So this set of points where C is less than equal to B. So as we are told that the order order of leaves is B, so there will be maximum of B minus 1 leaves, B minus 1 this key and data pointer pairs which is stored in a leaf. So this C can take any value from 1 to C minus 1. C is less than equal to B and each di is a data point points to the actual record in the list whose key value is ki or to a discrete file containing that record, and each ki record is in terminology refers to as an entry in database, and each ki is a key value and p next points to the next leaf node in the B plus tree. So P next points to, as we have talked about, this is a pointer to the next node. So it follows a single leaf type of structure, and P next is the. Now every leaf node has K1, K2 less than K1 as well. So here we come to the important conclusion that here in leaves also, like in B trees, the elements are arranged in ascending order. So K1 will be lesser than K2, K2 less than K3 and so on. C less than equal to C. Now each leaf node has at least ceiling of B by 2 value. So there is a condition on the minimum number of elements that a leaf node can have. This was available in B trees also, that in B tree it was M by 2, means orders were same for leaves and internal nodes, but in case of B plus trees the order of leaves is different and it is B, and so the minimum number of elements that can be stored is B by 2, ceiling of B by 2. So they have considered one more. So all leaf nodes are at the same level. So this is evident because in B trees also we have seen that all the leaves are at the same level. We cannot tolerate any leaf at the wrong level. So this condition is here also. And using the P next pointer, it is possible to traverse all the leaf nodes like an evening. So now we have talked about that almost all leaf nodes contain a P next pointer which points to the next. Now in case of unique list, if you know that last node refers to null, so on the whole it user P next helps us to access all the leaves. The main thing is that you don't have to access any parent node for accessing the leaf nodes. Now insertion and deletion in B trees. Now the main thing is that both insertion and deletion are almost similar to what we do in B trees. That we find the search position, then we insert element. Now if there is an overflow of elements, then we have to split that node and we have to send it to the median element to the top level parent node. So this concept also works in B plus trees. However, there is one catch. As we have said that the B plus trees contain redundant keys. So a key which is stored in the leaves may also be stored in one of the internal. Not necessarily all leaf entries will be stored in the internal node, but some will be stored in the top levels. So in case of splits, instead of blindly copying in every case, there is a regulation on that aspect. So we such that there is a copy of the accordingly, a copy of the key in the if. So what is the regulation? So let's read the text. Insertion in BT plus T similar to that in BT, except in the case when the leaf nodes overflow. Means number of elements in the node exceed the maximum number of keys to be stored. Means there are already maximum number of keys which are to be stored. Or after insertion, or actually that is before insertion only the particular node we are inserting has maximum number. Now at this position, only for leaf node, this particular another process has been added, which will work only for leaf node if there is an overflow only at the leaf nodes. In that case, what we have to do, split the leaf node into two nodes, what we do in previous one, so that will also work. The first node will contain ceiling of m minus 1 by 2 value. So the first node will contain ceiling of m minus 1 by 2, means one half of the set of elements. The second node contains the remaining values. The second half will contain second half of values. So this is also applicable for B tree. So if you want that what is the exact count of elements that we have to store in each half, then so in case of B trees also, so you can refer to these two paragraphs as these two lines as well. First one will contain ceiling of minus 5 by 2 values, and second contains remaining. Now last point is the difference. Copy the smallest search key from the second node to the parent node. Now here there is the key thing, that instead of just determining the middle element, we take and shifting it to the parent node, we check the second node of the splitting, find the smallest element there and copy it to the parent node. Copy the right smallest key of the right node to the parent node. So this enables our redundancy part of the key. This enables us to have internal some internal key entries also as part of internal nodes. And the thing we have to observe is that this is right bias, means we are considering the right node for copying the nodes. So the key will be a bit right bias. If otherwise, it may also have happened that the largest the left node has been copied. In that case, it could have been left bias, but in B plus T, right bias is used. Now, this particular key that we have copied to the parent node, it is also sometimes called split key, because this is the key on which a split has occurred. This can be said as a marker to that. Now whatever the thing that we have discussed it is applicable only if there is an overflow on the leaf nodes. However, if the overflow occurs in any of the internal nodes, means any of the internal nodes where insertion has occurred already has maximum number of elements, then the splitting process that we follow is same as that for BTs. That is, we take out, we split into two parts. One node contains these elements and second contains the remaining, and we take out the middlemost value and add it to the parent. Here no copying occurs. Here, unlike what we have done in leaf nodes, we copy, but in internal nodes no copying, we don't copy, we just shift, move that. So let's come to example. Now this is a very concise example that has covered almost all cases, most of the cases of insertion. So here you can see that this is a B plus T of where the leaves in internal nodes have an order of 5. Here there are 5 positions, and the leaves have an order of 4. Leaves have an order of 4. So the key is that where we have insert 10, 27, 28, 27, 28 and 29 in the leaf nodes. BT already has some elements, and then this one 27, these some elements 27, 28 and 29 have been added to the leaf node of the B plus. Now here you can see that this key element, this leaf element 26 has also a copy of it in the parent one. So due to some insertion, this 26 has been copied to the parent. So here we have a redundant. Now after we insert 30, we have to watch what happens here. Now what will be the position of 30? Here we search, we keep on searching lesser than 30, so 31 greater than 30, so here we go, and this part all are greater than 30, so here we have here we go, and here we see this particular leaf node which has all elements greater than 30, and there is no element now here we have all elements lesser than 30 and there is no element greater than 30. So here we are supposed to insert 30, but as we have seen that the order of leaves is 4. So if we insert 30, then there will be an overflow. So what happens is that I cannot draw this 26 numbers individually, just I so marking from more points. This the resultant node will have 5 elements, which is not applicable. So what we have learned in case of B trees is that we have to split this B tree leaf into 2 parts. First will contain ceiling of m-1 by 2, means 4 minus 1, 3 by 2 is 1.5, doing ceiling will be 2. So first node will contain 2 elements, 26, 27, first 2 elements, 26 and 27 will contain the first term, and then you will have another set of elements 28, 29, 30, 29, 29 and 30. So this is stored in the second half. Here they have shown the split in such a way that after they are doing the split before we insert 30. It will be easier to understand, because they cannot store elements. So before storing the elements, they have split it, and then they have stored 30. Now, according to our condition, next step, copy the smallest charge key from the second node to the parent node. Now, according to this step, we have to first investigate this node. This node now contains, actually this node now contains 28, 29 and 30. Now, what is the smallest element? 28 is the smallest element. So, what we have to do? We have to copy this 28 beside this node. Beside this node, so this 28 will be copied to the parent node, and this parent node now will have 5 elements, and 6, 11, 19, 26, 28. But here is another problem. The order for the internal leaves is 5. So the maximum number of elements which can be stored is 4. So as a result, here also overflow occurs. So here we have to split this node. So here what we do is 5 by 2. We divide it into 2 parts. Now this split doesn't follow the rule of what we have done in the list. So this is a simple split. So first split part will contain 6 and 11, and the second part will contain 26 and 28. 26 and 28. So what is the middle element? The middle element is 90, and middle element 90 is in neither of them, and it is shifted to the parent node. Here it is the root. Now after adding, this root element now has 3 elements, 19, 31 and 60. So this is the final tree that we have. Now watch where the elements have been copied, where we have redundant entries. For example, this 6 is a redundant entity which is stored in this internal node. Then 11 is there as a redundant entity. Now 19 was also there. 19 was also there in this part, but due to insertion it has gone to this root node. Now this 26 is also present in this node. Now after that we have 28. 28 is present in this. Is also present in. After that 31 is present in this. After that we have 38. So 38 is, and after 40 I have not shown others. So this is the way we have inserted elements in the this is all discussion also same. This example has covered roughly all cases of insertion in plus T. So here they have discussed both the cases. In case of insertion we split occurs, and in leave also split occurs. Here there is a small error from my side, that this vigilance is written order of right. This order is only for internal nodes. This 5 order is only for internal. For leaves the order is 4. Here there are maximum number of elements. I will correct in the slide. So at first the keys 27, 28, 29 have been inserted in the leaf nodes without any problem. So here they were inserted 27, 28, 29 without any problem. Adding 30 in its designated position will cause an overflow in the corresponding leaf, and the split occurs. After this, the smallest element of the second split node, 28, is copied to the parent node. Note the word copied. Here the new, and here the smallest element of this split node is copied to the parent node. Now after copying, as we have seen that initially it was not like that. Initially there were 4 nodes and 25 8 was added, so there are 5 nodes, but that also produce overflowing. Now overflowing, but this is an internal node. So here also split occurs, the needs are distributed accordingly, and the middle element 19 is shifted, not copied to the upper level. So in this case we have performed the split, but we have not copied the middle element. We have straight away shifted the middle element to the top. So this is how we have performed this. Now deletion of B plus. Delete the leaf entry from the tree if the leaf fulfills the exact conditions of record deletion. In case of leaf node, in case the leaf node meets the satisfactory factor of being half full, then the operation is completed. So it is similar to the condition which we have checked for in B trees, that if even after deleting the element from the node, the number of elements is more than the minimum required, then we can simply carry on the deletion. Otherwise, we also come to the concept of borrowing from left or right sibling. So else if the other nodes on the right and left can vacate any entries, then move them to the left. Now actually that will similar to B trees, we first take the left sibling. If they have required number of keys, means more than minimum, then we can borrow it. Actually here borrowing is just borrowing, because here all the elements are present in leaf node. All the elements are present in leaf node, so you have to anyhow do that. Anyhow we will be having the order of elements in leaf. So now if this criteria is not fulfilled, then they should combine the leaf node and its linked node in the tree hierarchy. So this is the next case, which is if both the siblings have minimum number of keys, then we just merge the nodes. So, and then we are done. So in case of internal nodes, because there are some leaf entries which we stored as internal leaves, also follow the rules as in BT node deletion. So as per what we have performed by deleting an internal node from that BT, we perform the same task here also. But there is another catch, that repair the keys in the levels above to represent that these nodes have a different split key between them. Now the thing that we have talked about, that split key, this split key, we copy the smallest value from the second node to the parent node. So we have a copy of the leaf and that particular leaf element to the leaf to the internal node, and this is also called the split key. Now as we have deleted this internal nodes, so we have to again copy some other node, some other leaf node element to the internal node, so that this will preserve the property of B plus T. Otherwise the property of B plus T will be, so we have to copy one element from there as the key, as the earlier with the key which was returned has been deleted. So this involves simply changing a key in the levels above without deletion or insertion. Means we just copy a element from lower leaves to adjust the upper nodes. So this is simple example when you have when you have the deleted deletion such that after deletion the overflow does underflow does not occur. This is a case of underflow. If the number of keys is less than the minimum required. So here you can see the order is, they have specified all these things. Order is 4, maximum number of children is 4, and minimum is 2, maximum number of keys is 3, and minimum is 1. So after this, they want to delete 21 from there, but that contains more than minimum number of keys. So they just have deleted 21. So they have changed, the change has just been showed here. And this is the example which shows the complex case. Then when the sibling and the entry which we have deleted has an entry in the internal notes also, so we have to work accordingly. So here we are deleting 25. 25 is there in the internal node, so we have to delete it from both leaf node and the internal node. Now we have simply deleted that from the number of maximum number of elements in has to be 3, and so minimum number of elements that can be stored is 2. The ceiling of m by b by 2, 3 by 2 is 2. So you have to ensure that 2 elements are stored in the leaf. 20. So 25 is has been deleted. So to replace, you have to replace it. So as we have learnt in case of deletion from B trees, you have to replace it with either the left one, left successor, or in not a predecessor, or in not a successor. So in this case, before they have just replaced it with the in order successor. Now in order successor 25 in the list was 26. So they have copied 26 in place of 25. They have removed 25, and in the internal node that contained 25 they have put 26. Now this particular leaf now contains one element only. Then there is a problem. Minimum number of elements that can be stored in any in the leaves has to be 2, as we have got there. So what we have to do? We have to again borrow it from somewhere. So here in this case they have borrowed it from the right So you can say that in case of B plus T, first we check the right side, and if it is not there in right side, then you have to check the left side. So in 30, so they check the right side, which is 30, and it has actually maximum number of leaf node element that can be stored. Now we borrow 30 from there and put it there. But here as we have seen that key, the redundant key is the redundant key which we store in the internal node is the first element, smallest element of the right shift. And here you see that after deleting, after shifting 30 to this node, this particular initially when 30 was there in the internal node, its right children contained this node, and its smallest element was also 30. So this condition was satisfied. So after 30 has been shifted there, the 30 is still present in the internal node, but the smallest element of the right child is still is now 31. So there has been a change. Okay. So what we have to do is that we have to update the internal node, because you have to regulate that change, otherwise the property will be again be violated. So we copy this smallest element of right child 31 to this node. Now our BT property has been satisfied. So this is an example where an entry has been deleted from the leaves which were stored in an internal node 2. In this example, 25 was deleted, which was present in both leaf and internal node. After this, the corresponding internal node becomes ND, which has been filled up by with the in-order successor, which is 26. Then the leaf contains lesser than required number of keys, 2. Required number of keys was actually 2. So the key element has been borrowed from the next element, 30. Due to this, the internal node has to be adjusted, because 30 doesn't remain the same. As we said that the smallest element in the right child is also called split key. So after transferring 30 to this node, the split key is now not 30, it is 31. So we have updated that split key. One element in the next key is 31. This is 30 in the internal node. So 31, which was the smallest element in the right, has replaced 30 in the internal node, and this satisfies our BT, and this also ends our class on BT. So here are some sources from which this size have been taken. Now one note is that the deletion from BT's part, as means all these examples have been given are given in sorry all these examples have been given in this programmiss.com, and this particular journal has explained D plus T part well. You can take this resources for further, and there is one YouTube video also from where we have taken help. So thanks for watching. If you have any questions, comment in the commenters, and thanks.